I make learning a privilege, not a chore, and frustration a tool, not an obstacle. I'm a teacher. I make more.
Make more. Teach. Visit teach.org. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
WWDB Philadelphia, 860 AM.
The opinions and statements expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of WWDB, its staff, or management.
Now the world don't move to the beat of just one drum. What might be right for you may not be right for some.
What you talking about, Philadelphia? Matt, I love you dearly. You ask and ye shall receive. Who doesn't love this one? Welcome, everybody. It is Wednesday morning. It is 8 a.m. You're hearing the Different Strokes theme at my request, so a little early birthday present to me. So it must be Find It at Fishtown Live. I'm Mark Colazzo with the Starsky to my hutch, Kae Anderson. Good morning, Kae.
Good morning, Mark.
Kae, I have to be honest with you, and we have awesome guests today. As you know, we bring the best that Fishtown, Kensington has to offer. I don't know that we're going to top the new intro, though.
I mean...
And you told me we couldn't do it.
I did. I didn't think we could.
But Matt hooked us up. So there's a lot of people who are like my age, 52, thinking, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard.
And then there's a lot of people my age that are thinking, what just happened?
Why is this goofy guy laughing hysterically at an intro song? But you are listening to another award-winning episode, I promise, of Find It at Fishtown Live, brought to you by the fine Fishtown District, located just northeast of Center City, Philadelphia. Our active business corridor encompasses world-renowned restaurants, outstanding taverns, boutique hotels, and the unrivaled Fillmore concert venue. And as you're going to hear today, some really quality restaurants and hotels. The area, which includes businesses along Frankfort Avenue, Girard Avenue, and North Front Street, is rich in history and features culinary delights, modern and traditional art, a vibrant nightlife, and, of course, me and Kae. And Kae, I guess we have to start off before we talk about the theme for today's show. Both of us got to enjoy a little Fishtown this weekend. We got to partake in Fabrica, who was our first guest on our first show. What did you think?
I loved it.
Wasn't that amazing?
I thought it was fantastic. The food was great. Let's start there. Food was great. I loved my cocktail.
What was the cocktail? Did you have the Love Crime cocktail for Valentine's Day?
No, I had the Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
The names don't make it sound nearly as tasty as they were, but shout out to Justice, who was our waitress, who recommended that. But the show performances were, I mean, you had everything from burlesque to, there was acrobatics, there was a Cirque du Soleil performance, ballet, there was someone with an electronic, violin, and I was thrilled. He played a song from The Weeknd, and I knew who it was. So it was really a step up. Shout out to Mike Soboleski and the rest of the team. Really quality effort, and I want to make sure everyone knows full compliance with all safety guidelines.
Absolutely.
So listen, health department, you don't have to bother with Fabrica. Perfect job. What was the highlight for you and your partner?
So there was one performer who, she was like a belly dancer, but she did 5 different tracks, and each track she had a different prop for. So one of them, she had these light up wings that she did some rhythmic dancing with. Another one, she had a live snake, and she was just dancing with the snake. So that was probably the highlight for me.
Yeah. It's funny. I will enjoy snakes at a very far distance. So as long as it's not slithering to me or on me, I'm all in. We had a woman who did these tricks with umbrellas, on her back, spinning with her hands and her feet. And of course, you know how my mind thinks. My only thought is, how does one sit and think, you know what I'm going to do for my talent? Buy a bunch of umbrellas and sit around my house and spin them. But yet they found a way, an outlet for it to do it. So awesome job. So that's just one of the many stuff you're going to get to hear about in the Fishtown District. But Kae, what's new? What's happening?
So we do have some new businesses that have opened up in the Fishtown district over the last couple of weeks that I wanted to make sure everybody knew about. So we have a new vegan and vegetarian restaurant. It's called Pom Pom, and that just opened up on Frankfurt Avenue down on the 1400 block. In addition to that, we also have Mural City Cellars, which is a new winery, urban winery.
There we go.
Yeah, so that is a new Fishtown district member, and they just opened over on Amber Street in the northern part of our district. We just heard that Cake Life is coming back.
Yes.
We're very excited about that. The cinnamon rolls are fantastic over there.
Because I'm such a plain Jane, I go for the sugar cookies. That's what I go for.
In addition to that, we also had a new retail boutique open up, Cargo 7 Boutique. And you can find Cargo 7 over on the 2500 block of Frankfurt Avenue.
And what's so extraordinary, Kay, is we talk about this all the time. You know, we're always amazed by the talent, the creativity, the dedication of all of our stakeholders and business owners, but especially during COVID, how they've adapted and, you know, we're knocking whatever's close to wood on this table here, that we still have businesses opening and more coming in the coming months. I think it's a testament to what our corridor has become and the people in it. And we are so very excited to have a few of them with us today. Before we go into bringing on our first guest, feel free to give us a call. Tell us what's on your mind. Ask a question to one of our guests at 888-329-3306. That's 888-329-3306. And Kate, today's theme is hospitality in the Fishtown district. And because you know of my love of quotes, which I remind people is just my laziness in having somebody else say it the way I wish I could, hospitality is a way to show that you love and care. And that was an anonymous quote that I found on the internet. And the two people we're going to have up for today really exemplify that. One of our chefs that we have with us today, Chef Adam Diltz. Good morning, Chef.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Awesome. If anybody wants to have really one of the more unique dining experiences that brings in not just the freshest foods and culinary delights, but brings in traditions from our city going back to when our country was founded, there's no other place that I know of like Elwood. So, Chef, tell us a little bit about what gave you the idea to start Elwood and what was really the concept behind it.
Sure. I've always wanted to have a restaurant that focused on Pennsylvania. So it was a long-time dream. I've been cooking for over 20 years, but I grew up in northeastern Pennsylvania. Grew up on shoe-fly pie and ham pot pie and sauerkraut, that sort of thing. So I always wanted to focus on those sort of regional differences, and also the history comes into play also, especially with Philadelphia. Philadelphia is what was at one point the second biggest English-speaking city in the world. It also had the biggest market, and where you could get anything you wanted. It had the best French restaurants. So with that sort of thing, I wanted to showcase that, some things that people use, like turtle soup. That's the real dish of Philadelphia. Turtle soup has the whole history of Philadelphia in the bowl, you know. So when people say cheese steak, no, that's not a cheesesteak. It's the turtle soup really is the dish of Philadelphia. And so I do things like that.
What's in turtle soup?
Well, it's a turtle. I mean, it used to be in the 1700s originally, it was the green sea turtle.
Okay.
Because the English, they went to the West Indies, they found them eating the green sea turtle, and then they also had their love for spices, and so they put that in. But then it went to the terrapin, one of the local regional turtles here, but then they ate all those also. And so now it's the snapping turtle.
So, and looking in the background, so you're encompassing colonial, federal, Victorian eras of our city. What drove you to that more than anything else? Did you grow up on that type of food, or, you know, because certainly what you see in Fishtown is a lot of more eclectic, newer type fusion things. This is really going back.
Yeah, I call it there's they call New American is all the new restaurants, but I call it Old American. But, well, like I said, I always was interested in Pennsylvania and Pennsylvania foodways. And so you could either say it's a farm to table, you know what I mean? Like, we'll just get from all these places around within X amount of miles around. But if you do that, then you also are missing out on a lot of things that people used to eat, like turtle soup, for instance. Or they used to sell, there's always, you see these advertisements in the old like newspapers for in Fishtown. They used to sell, they would used to sell sturgeon right out of barrels on the streets of Fishtown at one time. A fish of Fishtown, the shad. I actually, when I first opened, I started doing the shad bake as one of my family style entrees as a little ode to that time, because the colonial time, and the Native Americans, they loved the shad, and they would just plank it on a board, and the colonists used like bacon. They would eat it with bacon fat.
I want to guess that's a fish, right?
Yeah,
There
shad.
you
It's
go.
related to the
See,
herring. There's a lot of bones.
I tell you, Kay, it's informative and entertaining. It's infotainment.
Yeah, I mean, caviar production in the 1800s was up the river on the Delaware. It was here. I mean, there was a huge caviar. At first, when they came in, sturgeon had, because they were mostly English colonists, it was looked down upon because that was what the Native Americans eat, and then once the Northern European immigrants came, they liked sturgeon because they used to eat it back home, and so then it became even a bigger trade. So it was a major trade.
Is it
item.
easy to source those types of items still in
No,
this
those sort
area?
of things is hard.
Okay.
It's impossible, actually.
I had never heard of them being on a menu before. So
Ever.
talk about how you find these items.
Sure. I mean, some things are impossible, like sturgeon. There's only a few, because, I mean, the history of a lot of things that people used to enjoy and used to eat is the history of Europeans coming here and eating everything, or being a commodity, and then it almost going extinct. So some things, Samuel's, the big seafood company, they'll find a sturgeon farm. There's some sturgeon farms in California and Florida, and so I'll try to get that so we can relive some of these tastes that way.
Were you always into history too, besides the love of food? Because it sounds like you have to have that.
I like history as in a source as it's food related, because food is related to everything. It's related to economy, politics, religion, everything. So I always had a deep passion and interest in food and why we eat what we eat. I mean, the whole history is, everybody's separated themselves through food, tribalism. The Romans called the Germanic, the Gauls, they called them butter eaters because they would eat butter, you know what I mean?
Sure. So when did Elwood open?
May 1st, 2019.
So very recent. Did you get any pushback? And pushback, I mean, by the theme of what you were going with, because it was something that was hearkening back to a much earlier time with much different ingredients that people had been used to. How did you find the response to that to be?
I still do sometimes.
Oh, really?
Well, when I first opened it, and it's probably on me just because I have to explain it, because I am trying to be different. I mean, in a way, it's the same as every other Western restaurant, but also it's different in a lot of ways. But, I mean, when I first opened it, it was hard. No one knew what to make of it, I mean, I had a celery dish as one of the appetizers, and everybody couldn't believe it because, but celery was back in the Victorian age, it was like status symbol. I mean, they literally they found them, so they would make vases just so you could put a head of celery in and put it on your table and show how rich you were. It was like a status symbol. And we've actually found...
Wish it was like that now.
Yeah, well, the I-95 dig, they found the celery vases. They found like broken celery vases in the privy digs in Fishtown. But it was also in England too, and everywhere. It was like a European thing where they wanted, until they started growing it easier out west, like in Lancaster and stuff. But celery was like, it was like having a Mercedes in your driveway to have celery on your table. And then they would eat it too. They would cook it when it started to wilt. And I have Victorian celery plates, and I would serve it on that. I mean, I put like cheese in. I mean, it's good. I mean, at first everybody was like, "What is this guy doing? Celery?" And well, then they try it and they're like, "Wow, that's cool." So.
And I remember going to see it for the first time. It really is an experience for people to, not just for your taste buds, but to go back in time a little bit. What have you found to be some of the more popular dishes or staples of Elwood Restaurant?
Sure, the turtle soup, like I said, when I call it Kensington Snapper Soup, because that's actually the name of it from the Women's Memorial Cookbook of 1910, where they call it Kensington Snapper Soup, because Kensington, well, that's Fishtown. Fishtown is part of Kensington. That's why they called it that. But there's that. I also do a whole roasted rabbit as a little ode to Elwood. Is named after my grandfather. He's passed now, but he used to northeastern PA. There's a big hunting culture, and so I wanted to show that also.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. So there's a couple different dishes I do. I mean, sometimes I do traditional cultural dishes, such as ham. My great grandmother's ham pot pie. They butchered
looking
hogs.
at it now.
They butchered hogs. They would have, and my great grandmother have a tin full of pork fat, and she used in everything. And that's the ham pot pie. The Pennsylvania Dutch pot pie is like a stew. It's sort of, it means the noodle and it means a dish. So spaghetti is a noodle and it's a dish. The pot pie, it's an anglicization of bot pie, a German. And so my pot pie, Pennsylvania Dutch pot pie, is sort of like, it's like a stew type of thing, but it's with these wide flat noodles, which are called pot pie. And so I want to show it off because not a lot of people know that. I mean, your pot pie that you're thinking of comes from the English style.
Sure.
And then the first
Pie crust, meat inside.
The pie crust, yeah, that's the English pie style.
So I got to ask you about the Philadelphia pepper pot, because I know that's one of your big items over at Elwood. What is that?
Philadelphia pepper pot is another dish of Philadelphia. It has there's like this sort of myth about George Washington inventing it or whatever at Valley Forge, which is obviously a lie. That there was Caribbean immigrants on the streets selling pepper pot at one point in history. I mean, they would, people would go to like the theaters and they would be out, and the sellers will be outside selling little bowls of pepper pot to people. I mean, there's lots of different variations. There's lots of ways to do it. I mean, I generally think Philadelphia pepper pot has tripe in it. And it also has the same like flavor profile. The people, everybody back then was going crazy for spices. So it has that spice, all the spice that you would think.
Well, I'm reading the ingredients now. It's Forks Farm beef, fish pepper, and tripe.
Yeah, the beef is beef shank. I also do like whole animals at Elwood, so I get
like rabbit. I know is one of them.
Rabbit, that's one of my signatures too. People love that. But I also do whole pigs. I get whole pigs in. I get a half of a cow. A whole cow is too much for my little restaurant, but I get a half of a cow. And in that particular instance, it's the shanks, which is what they would have used back then.
And it looks like the menu evolves. It changes depending on season. Am I right?
Yeah. It changes, and it sort of always changes and never changes. Like there's some things that I can never take off, like my grandmother's pot pie I can never take off, or turtle soup. I mean, I have pepper pot now, and it's sort of the same flavor profile, so I don't do both. But I mean, turtle soup is another one that I don't take off, but that sort of thing.
I think that we're going to take a real quick break, but when we come back, we'll continue this great conversation.
The opioid epidemic is affecting countless lives, including young adults. Did you know approximately 45% of opioid prescriptions to adolescents are made by dentists, often after wisdom teeth removal? These drugs carry risks, but you can help reduce your risk or the risk for a loved one. If prescribed an opioid, ask your dentist to consider limiting prescriptions to 3 days, using over-the-counter pain relievers, and properly disposing of unused medications. For more information, go to shatterproof.org. This has been a message from Shatterproof, United Healthcare, and this station.
This time next week, I'll be sick in bed with West Nile virus, thanks to a mosquito bite right in front of my house.
In 8 minutes, my daughter will be in an ambulance, having an asthma attack, triggered by cockroaches.
I'm going to be bitten by a tick today. I won't even know it until Lyme disease turns my life upside down.
Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org. A public service message from the National Pest Management Association and the CDC.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes 2. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzzed driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzzed driving, because buzzed driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
What is hope? Hope to me was just that he would get to come home. I had no idea how hard it would be once he got back.
I wish she'd stop drinking so much. She thinks it's helping, but it's not. I hope she sees that soon.
I act like I don't care if he comes to my games, but I hope he does.
I used to hope he'd find happiness again. Now I hope our marriage makes it.
I hope Grandpa will get help. He thinks it's too late, but it's not.
With everything that he's going through, I hope he sees a counselor. I just want my brother back.
I hoped he'd get help. Stop hoping things would get better on their own. He told me to stop asking. I didn't. Then one day he asked for a ride.
Hope is knowing there are other families just like yours, that the veterans they love got help and recovered. Go to maketheconnection.net and turn hope into action.
Welcome back to Find It in Fishtown Live. I'm Mark Colazzo with my partner in crime, Kay Anderson. Find It in Fishtown Live, brought to you by the fabulous Fishtown District. Check us out, whether you're into eating, enjoying spirits, shopping, strolling, and, of course, spending the night. I got it out.
I was going to say, you got a little stuck on eating there.
I did.
Probably because we got a chef in the room, huh?
Exactly. I'm thinking of the pepper pot. Check out all the available fabulous options at fishtowndistrict.com. Also, you can watch and see our lovely punums as we live stream this beautiful broadcast at the Fishtown District on Facebook. And if you have any questions, want to voice your opinion, chime in, call us at 888-329-3306. That's 888-329-3306 for the Find It in Fishtown live hotline on WWDB 860 AM. That's my radio voice, Adam. What do you think?
I like it.
Thank you. Thank you. We're here with Chef Adam Diltz, owner and operator of Elwood Restaurant in Fishtown. Chef, let's go back. You're a young fella growing up.
Sure.
What gave you your love and desire to get into cooking?
Well, I always like to eat. Lunch was my favorite thing at school, and that, besides gym, you know. And I always I really like to eat. I mean, even, you know, when I was younger, on my great-grandfather's farm, my grandfather Elwood, or my uncles would take me out to the turnip. I mean, they grew turnips also to store over winter, but they'd let me go out and pick like the biggest turnip I could find. Like, it was like big as my head, and I'd eat it, like take a bite with salt, and then I'd put it in the fridge and eat the next day. It took me like a week, but but I love turnips. But yeah, so I always had a love for food and a love for eating. So
when did you realize that you had a penchant for cooking?
That was in high school too. You know, I used to come home. I was like, you know, back then they used to call the kids latchkey kids or whatever, you know, back in the 90s. And so you'd come home and I'd try to cook because I was hungry, try to cook something for myself. And that's really how it started. Plus the hunting culture, like I said, you know, you get a deer and you want to, I mean, my family, which comes from the whole animal usage, I mean, they always use that. I mean, they did it themselves. They try to use everything.
Sure. So young Adam comes home from high school, Kay, and where, as I would be at least trying to chase girls or play wiffle ball in my driveway, What were you cooking?
Oh, I don't know. Whatever. Mostly, whatever my mom had in the freezer. Besides that, some other things. She had a garden, a little tiny garden, but things like that. Soups,
So now we go on. When did you decide I want to be a chef?
Well, in high school, I did too. I went to culinary school at Penn College of Technology after high school in Williamsport, Pennsylvania.
And then you've worked with not one, not two, but 3 James Beard Award winners. Is that right?
Yeah.
Where were they?
Well, when I first left to seek my fortune, I went to Boston, and then I worked with Barbara Lynch up there at Number 9 Park. And then originally I wanted to travel because I never even left Pennsylvania. I never left Pennsylvania until I was like 18. The borders. But so I wanted to see the rest of the world. And then I went to Chicago and worked at a Michelin star place in Chicago. It just closed actually. They had 35 years. And it was an old school French restaurant called Everest, but it just closed before the pandemic. And then I wanted to do farm to table for real, so I moved down to Tennessee to work at this big resort. It's called Blackberry Farm. It's a big resort where they do a ton of stuff. They're even bigger now, and then I came to Philly about 10 years ago, because like I said, I always wanted a Pennsylvania restaurant, so I wanted to be in Pennsylvania.
And Elwood wasn't your first foray working in Fishtown, was it? Or cooking in Fishtown, that is.
In Fishtown, no. When I first moved to Philly, yeah, I was a chef at Pharmacia for like 3 years, and then I was the chef at Johnny Brenda's. Yeah. So I've lived and worked in Fishtown for not a long time compared to some people, but about 9 years now. Yeah.
And was it important to open Elwood in Fishtown?
Yeah. I think so, I guess.
What drew you to it?
Well, I live here. I live in Fishtown, so there's that. But also, Fishtown is, I hate to say it's the happening spot, but that's because that's the
you could
cliche.
say it is.
Okay. Well, that's a cliche everybody says, but it's also has a different, it has that sort of, artist vibe of the different cultures coming in and trying to seek, their passion.
Well, the reception has been amazing, and I know Chef does not like when we give him heap all the praise on him, but he's certainly got accolades galore. I'm going to read one, and then just ask you about how it makes you feel. You've taken this big step, just opened Elwood. So this is from Craig Laban. In this age of trend-tested concepts, there's a rare clarity of here I am, rustic passion guiding Chef Adam Diltz's vision. One rooted in both personal and rural Pennsylvania histories, and I find it deliciously compelling. That's going to be my new nickname for you, Adam. Deliciously compelling.
Sure.
But I can go up and down the list here. That's got to be gratifying for you that, you take this chance, you open your own place, and, Food and Wine. I'm just looking at all of the fabulous awards, Eater Awards 2019. The food is well worth making a reservation, Kay, but just as enjoyable are the tables behind each bite. Diltz has clearly done his homework. He's blushing. You can't see it.
Oh, no, you can. He's on camera.
That's right. I forgot. There you go.
Yeah. It is good. There's, especially when, no one had any clue what I was doing in the beginning. As much as I'm a chef, so, my relationship with critics, it's a little contentious most of the time, but that review, honestly, it really opened up a lot of things because he understood it and explained it pretty well what I was doing, As for, some things, Philadelphia Chef of the Year, of course it's great, it's great, but that was yesterday. It depends on that night's service and that table there. Like I said, the restaurant's a little different in ways. My wife, Jenny, is an architect, and she designed it. When you walk in, you walk right into the kitchen. I look everyone in the eyes when they come in and when they leave. Hey, how was everything? Did you? I mean, I go to every table. You know, it kind of sucks as a chef. I mean, but you know, that's the reality of it. You know, every single person, every single table, whether they loved it or hated it, you know, I gotta say, hey, how was? I look them in the eyes when they leave. You know.
Is there a dish you've yet to tackle that you want to? That we can someday look on the Elwood menu and go, this is the one. This is my white whale. And not whale, by the way, because I don't think that'll go over well.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, they used to, you know, whaling industry, you know.
So,
that
yeah, he was gonna
I mean,
know.
that's the type of stuff I love to hear, you know, the whaling industry. I mean, they used to eat, like, dolphins, too, on the coast of Jersey and stuff. But, I mean, there's lots of things. I mean, Elwood's not even well, especially now in COVID, but it's not even close to what I want it to be in the end, you know? I mean, I want to be, some dishes I want to be hyper specific, you know? I want the exact bean, you know? There's so many heirloom varieties of vegetables and all sorts of things that people used to eat and that have a history. Not only just plain history, but history in this area, you know? Like all these native beans that are the Native Americans used to grow, or the squashes of the area, you know? I mean, there's all sorts of those things that I want to be putting on the menu and talking about and explaining, you know?
So I have one more question for you. If you could go out to eat anywhere in Fishtown that isn't Elwood, where would you go?
Well, my friend just opened Pom Pom on Frankfurt Avenue. So a good friend of mine, Jeff, I used to know him in Chicago, actually. We're friends through a friend in Chicago. So I really want to check. I mean, I've been in there and he's showed me around. We talked a lot, but I haven't been in to eat. I'd love to be able, well, you know, when things are normal, to go in and sit down and experience it. But definitely got to go check out Pom Pom.
Awesome.
Before one question, also, one of the things we haven't hit, besides the dining experience that you provide, you also provide tea service, am I right?
Oh, yeah. My tea service, you know, the old English style, which was big in the colonial days, also a tea service, the Saturdays and Sundays.
So what's that like? What do we get if I get myself up on a Saturday morning and want to go for tea? What's that experience like?
Sure. Well, I have a lot of selections of teas, not just your normal high quality, regular, you know, Chinese Lapsang Souchong and the Indian teas, you know, black teas and green teas, jasmine. But I also have, there's this herbal farmer called Oma Herbal Teas. Nicole is her name, but it's called Oma Herbal Teas. And she makes these blends for me. Like these herb blends, she grows her own organic herbs. She dries them. She makes little blends. I even have my own Elwood spice blend. And so that's the tea part. And then you'll get like the classic, you know, I do some like Pennsylvania Dutch things to make it like a little different, you know, snickerdoodles and a shoe fly cake and that sort of thing. Eclairs and...
Okay. How do the thousands upon thousands upon thousands of listeners find Elwood? How do they find you, Adam?
Sure. Well, www.elwoodrestaurant.com. I'm on Resi also, the reservation software. Elwood Restaurant on Instagram. Chef Adam Diltz on Instagram. Facebook, I have Elwood Restaurant.
And what do you and listen, I know COVID has been certainly hard for everybody. I know you and Elwood have had to adapt. Have the people still been coming? I know it's still been a limited capacity for you. But have you found the patronage, you know, people still want to keep coming out?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I mean, my hours are definitely not the same as they were pre-COVID, but I just open on the weekends now, but yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to when we return to normal again. I've been dying. I want to try the pepper pot and the rabbit.
Oh yeah,
and it's a whole
awesome.
rabbit.
It's a whole rabbit.
You skimping on nothing, my friend.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things. You know, Americans they used to relish eating meats on bones and those sort of things, which we've gotten away with, and so I'm trying to bring it back.
Well, this has been awesome, and I got to be honest, Kay, Chef Adam really is deliciously compelling. Please, everyone, if you haven't tried it, Go to see Chef Adam at Elwood Restaurant. If you have gone, go back. It is worth it. Chef, thank you for your time, and thanks for joining us on Finding the Fishtown Live.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me.
And we're going to take another break to pay some more bills so we can bring you this fine program. But we'll be back, as Chuck Woolery used to say, on Love Connection in 2 and 2.
It's been called shell shock, war neurosis, and battle fatigue. Today, we call it post-traumatic stress disorder, and it affects 1 out of every 5 warriors returning from battle in Iraq and Afghanistan. The Wounded Warrior Project offers comfort and support for warriors with PTSD and all other scars of war, whether those scars are visible or hidden. Find out how to help, because for warriors, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. Please visit woundedwarriorproject.org.
Young people everywhere are making a difference.
Special Olympics has changed my life.
What I'm doing is for a great cause.
And it's not about disabilities, but it's about celebrating their abilities.
I've made a difference. Now it's your turn to make a difference.
Get involved at specialolympics.org.
The police called after midnight when they caught our son at a drinking party. It was a real wake-up call. My wife and I are really worried. We don't know if our son has a serious problem or if he's just hanging around with the wrong crowd. How do we know what to do? The police officer who brought our son home suggested we try Al-Anon family groups. He said it might help to hear how other parents are dealing with alcohol problems. I didn't want to go to an Al-Anon meeting. I didn't want anyone to think we had problems like that. And I didn't think our son's problem was that bad. When I decided to give Al-Anon a try, I found it was a safe place that keeps your problems private. It was very helpful. Are you troubled by someone else's drinking? You might be surprised at what you could learn in an Al-Anon family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-AL-ANON or go to alanon.org.
I am so happy. Matt, you keep killing it. This is this is like an episode of This Is Your Life, which is yet another game show that Kay will stare at me and wonder, God, how old is this guy? So, by the way, we're back to Find It in Fishtown Live, brought to you by the fabulous Fishtown District, located just northeast of Center City, Philadelphia. Our active business corridor encompasses world-renowned restaurants, outstanding taverns, boutique hotels, which we're going to hear about next, and the unrivaled Fillmore concert venue. The area, which includes businesses along Frankfurt Avenue, Girard Avenue, and North Front Street, is rich in history and features culinary delights, modern and traditional art, and a vibrant nightlife. Check us out at fishtowndistrict.com and on social media, where we're live streaming now on Facebook at the Fishtown District. And please give us a call at 888-329-3306. Again, it's the Find It in Fishtown Live hotline, 888-329-3306. And before we bring in our next guest, I have to explain to both Chef Adam and Kay my last reference of Love Connection and Back at You in 2 and 2. So Love Connection was another show from the 70s and 80s where they would bring unsuspecting couples together to go out on dates. So they would pay for it. Then they would bring the couple in who would talk about it. And obviously, the worse the date was, the funnier it was. But whenever Chuck Woolery, the host, would go to commercial, he would go, "We'll be right back in 2 and 2, meaning 2 minutes, 2 seconds. And I've been waiting. I've saved this up for the third show just so I can do it. You're welcome, America. So now, I don't think that really made it come alive for Kay, but at least she now knows.
Yeah, I think that's one of those game shows that they couldn't have on the air anymore.
No. Well, now you have stuff with like Snooki. Is she still a thing around? I don't know. Anyway, we have our next guest patiently waiting. As we talk about hospitality in the Fishtown District, people don't often think about that. They don't realize of the great accommodations and hotels that we have where you can spend the night after eating a wonderful meal at Elwood Restaurant. And really one of the avant-garde trendsetters, I'm really building this guy up, is Chad Ludeman. Chad and his wife, Courtney, have really built a boutique hotel, not just in Fishtown, but in several areas, including Cape May, that each reflect the personality of the neighborhood. And they are really provide a wonderful experience to really invite you to spend the night and spend time in Fishtown. So without further ado, good morning, Chad. Thanks for joining us today.
Morning, Mark. How you doing?
We're doing great. Thanks for listening so patiently as we got the food portion out of the way. So let's talk about Lokal. Tell me about how you and Courtney came up with the concept.
First, I'm super impressed with your radio voice, Mark. It's amazing.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, so Lokal was kind of something we talked about not very seriously every time we went on vacation. You know, every time we stayed at an Airbnb or a hotel or a resort or whatever, we would kind of just riff and take notes on like what we liked that they were doing, what we might do differently. And, you know, we had been doing more traditional real estate, just building townhomes and whatnot, Fishtown area, and selling them. We did that for almost 10 years. And, you know, one day we just kind of looked at each other about 4 or 5 years ago now. We're like, maybe we should do this, try this boutique hotel thing. And we feel like it's kind of now or never if we wanted to establish a brand. We started seeing people doing similar things, starting to do similar things to what our concept was probably going to be. And, you know, honestly, it was the first idea that Courtney ever said, I think this is a great idea. Let's do it. Usually she thinks all of my next projects are going to fail. So
I think that's marriage, my friend.
Yeah. So, yeah, we started searching for a property, and we wanted the first one to be in Center City, and we found a nice place in Old City, and that one opened a little over 3 years ago, and we liked it so much, we kind of stopped building homes and switched our whole business over to the hospitality world.
For those that don't know, Lokal is Lokal. What made you choose Fishtown?
Well, we moved to Fishtown probably around 2005 or so, and we loved it, and we loved the small business nature of it, the gritty nature of it. We honestly want to do our first location in Fishtown, but we felt like you know, we really needed to do something in Center City first to get established, and everyone knew how much we loved Fishtown. We didn't want them to think, oh, it's just Chad and Courtney doing something, you know, some hobby in Fishtown. We wanted to start in Center City, so we went there first, but we were really excited to move to Fishtown for our second location, where we had been for, you know, 15 or so years at that point.
And for our listeners, where's it at in Fishtown?
It is on Front Street, 1421 North Front Street. So it's a short walk from Frankfurt, kind of around the corner. It's kind of on the opposite side of Chew Noodle, if you walked around the corner from there on Frankfurt. So it's a short walk from both Frankfurt and the L stops there.
So one of the things for those that don't know, you pride yourselves on invisible service. You're the first invisible service boutique hotel brand. What does that mean?
Yeah, so, you know, invisible service is kind of a term for a lot of the work that goes behind the scenes in hospitality. You know, the people that are cleaning your room after you leave, or washing the dishes in the kitchen or whatever, that you don't really see, but is obviously a big part of the service. So we kind of gravitated towards that when we realized, you know, we're going to do these really small locations. Both the ones in Philly are 6 units, and we just didn't have the physical space for a check-in desk, and we didn't really have the budget with only that few rooms to have staff on site 24/7. So we don't have full-time staff on site. It's all done with technology. So you get a code before you check in, and you punch that code in at the front door, and you punch the code in at your room. And so there's really a fairly seamless check-in, check-out process. It's very private, and we handle everything remotely via text or phone call, and we handle all of the kind of room service things towards with delivery apps and whatnot on iPads in the room.
That's interesting. So, you know, if I've just finished a hearty meal at Elwood full of pepper pot and rabbit, and I've washed it down with some tea, and I want to relax, tell me about the room experience that really separates Lokal from any of the other boutique hotels that you can find.
Sure. Well, there's a couple of things. I mean, first off, we have all apartment style rooms. So we either have studio rooms or 2-bedroom rooms that can sleep 4. Everything's got a kitchen in it, a dining area. Most places have desks, you know, small living rooms. So they're much larger and more comfortable than a typical hotel room. You can definitely cook a full meal in there if you want. Obviously, we're pushing takeout right now with the local restaurants. So it's a little bit easier to kind of come and relax. And whether you're working or whatever, especially now during the pandemic, you got a little more space to spread out, cook a meal, warm leftovers up, stuff like that. So that's the first big difference. And then secondly, we try to make each location, uber local. That's why we're called local. So we're using local designers. We're using the local kind of feel of that neighborhood. So Old City is completely different from Fishtown. Old City is, much more historic, natural plaster walls, non-lacquered brass fixtures, things like that. Whereas Fishtown is much more modern. It's like kind of Scandinavian modern, black and white and wood. And we also use a ton of local makers as much as possible. So we're trying to support the small businesses within and surrounding, the neighborhoods that we're going into. And in Fishtown was actually really our best job at that, in my opinion. We hired True Hand Society, which is in Fishtown, to do the design, and they helped us collaborate and bring in over 30 makers and artists. So most of the furniture, all of the art, even some the mugs, the even some of the dishware and whatnot are all from local makers.
And I tell people all the time, you and Courtney have really done such a wonderful job of making the community part of the experience. And how has the response been to the Lokal Fishtown since you opened it?
It's been great. I mean, we had a massive opening in 2019. We had a line around the corner trying to get people through. So we really got off to a great start. And again, the local community was huge in that. So yeah, we've been able to get off to a quicker start, I think, at each location, mainly due to the local community supporting and spreading the word, word of mouth.
Chad, can you hang for a few minutes? We have a few more bills to pay, but we have a lot more to ask you about if you can hang tight.
In May of 2000, Devo Karnakar skied the full descent of Mount Everest. Every day, somewhere in the world, someone base jumps off a bridge, an antenna, a building, or a mountain peak. At Mavericks, surfers brave 60-foot faces and a punishing rock bottom to ride the world's largest waves. Across suburbia, skateboarders transform curbs, stairs, swimming pools, and cement flood basins into Everests of their own making. In the old days, we called these people adventurers. Now, we call them extreme sports enthusiasts. There's a group of people who jump out of helicopters into 30-foot ocean swells, race vehicles through war zones, chase hurricanes, fly through walls of fire, and maneuver zodiacs through flash floods, all in an effort to save lives. We call these people the Air Force Reserve. The Air Force Reserve. Live the extreme.
Nice turn, Jill. Toby, isn't your sister doing a nice job as a new driver?
Sure. Hey, by the way, Dad, have you ever smoked marijuana? It's getting legalized everywhere, so it's okay to do now, right?
OMG, Toby, are you serious?
It's not legal everywhere, and it's not legal for kids at all.
This conversation can happen anywhere, and your kids need to know the facts. 76% of teens agree that with legalization, teenagers may be more likely to experiment with marijuana.
Legal or not, marijuana is harmful to teens' developing brains and can cause permanent damage. It could also cause heart and respiratory problems.
I heard it could lead to using other drugs.
61% of teens agree that teenagers who use marijuana are more likely to try heroin.
But marijuana has been around forever.
Sure, but the type that's out there now is stronger than when I was younger, so it's really important for you two to be careful.
I never thought about that.
Well, now's the time to start thinking about it.
Now's the time to talk to your kids about substance use. Learn more at rosecrans.org.
Just one. I love this. Welcome back, everybody, to Find It in Fishtown Live. I have to be honest, I learned more from our commercials than I ever could have learned at school. Kay, I hope you listened to that last one.
I did. I definitely did.
She's a brand new person, ladies and gentlemen, so thank you. So we are talking to Chad Ludeman, owner and operator of the Lokal Hotels, and that is plural. So, Chad, I got to read you just to show you how well we were talking about the reception. I just want to read you a guest comment that I found. So you those live streaming will see Chad blush in a minute. Lokal Fishtown was absolute perfection. I barely wanted to leave our hotel room. Everything is so aesthetically pleasing and thought through. The coziest place ever. The invisible service could seem different at first, but they're just one call away, and they're exactly when you need them. I will be ranting about this place forever. That's got to make you feel good.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I owe that more to my wife than me. You know, she does all the operations, keeps everyone happy. She goes above and beyond for everyone.
So I have to ask, and Courtney is awesome. Hi, Courtney.
Courtney's still sleeping.
That's all right. That's okay.
We're actually on vacation at our A-frame.
So for those that would love to stay in a log cabin, Lokal can actually help with that, can't they?
Yeah, I'm actually here right now at our A-frame. We hardly ever go here, but we found a little opening, and the family and I are taking a couple nights to stay here at the A-frame and relax.
Where is that at?
So it's kind of in the middle of nowhere in Dorchester, New Jersey, which is south of Millville and Vineland. It's about 50-minute drive from Philly, and it's on a couple wooded acres, and it's got a nice little trail, and we built a beach down on the Maurice River. So it's a nice little spot, really chill here.
And speaking of beach, I guess was Cape May your most recent introduction into the Lokal family?
Yeah, Cape May opened a little over a year ago, and yeah, it's our third hotel. It's got 8 apartment suites, and it's got a really nice heated saltwater pool, which we're about to open in a couple weeks again.
So in essence, you can really take Fishtown everywhere with Lokal, right? Just say yes. There you go. What's next for Lokal?
Well, the homes were so popular, especially with the pandemic. Everyone kind of wanted to escape and be safe with their, family members. So we're in the process of building 7 more homes this year. We're rehabbing 2 right now, and we are going to build our first new construction vacation home. So we're going to build about 5 of those by the end of the year. So we're excited about all of that. We're working with KJO, who's also in Fishtown and designed our Fishtown spot, KJO Architects. And it's a little too early for me to go into detail, but we do have an exciting another hotel near Shoretown. It's going to be our biggest location, over 20 units. And that's just kicking off right now. And it's going to be a long planning process and whatnot, but you probably won't see that until next year, but we're pretty excited about that one as well.
So Chad, I know you didn't just start with building hotels. So tell us a little bit about your background and what you did before the first Lokal Hotel, and how you got into this.
Sure. Yeah. So, like I was saying before, we built homes before. Under Post Green Homes was our company there, and we were based in Fishtown, and we kind of specialize in modern architecture and sustainable design. So we built some of the most energy efficient, healthiest homes, certainly in Philly, but also in most of the country for about 10 years there. Had a nice little niche doing that. And before that, I was actually an engineer and in different roles in a manufacturing company that was really boring part of my life.
So what is it about real estate in Fishtown that really drew you to this neighborhood and made you want to start building homes here?
Well, my wife convinced me to go. She was a realtor at the time, and she was like, I think this Fishtown is up and coming. And I was against it at first, but she toured me around, and we visited a bunch of homes, and I really liked the vibe of it. And that was back when, it was Johnny Brenda's and the coffee house in Frankfurt that doesn't even exist anymore. We're the only 2 businesses on Frankfurt Avenue. Mm-hmm. For the most part. And so she saw the vision there, and as we put down roots, we rehabbed a shell of a house there over the course of a year or 2, and things started to really pick up. We loved the vibe, and we always wanted to do something, on the Frankfurt corridor. We had a hard time when we started in our real estate business. We couldn't, we were new to this game. We'd never built a house or anything. So our investors, we just couldn't convince investors that Frankfurt Avenue had a future, which sounds ridiculous now. But so unfortunately, we weren't able to do anything there. But finally, we were able to do this local on Front, right around the corner. And we're excited to be part of the business community there.
And Chad, you were certainly part of, you're a big part of the business fabric. You're a part of the creation of the Fishtown district. What do you see as the future for our commercial corridor? Certainly far different than probably what you even expected when you started.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about how far the commercial corridor has come. Obviously looking forward to the pandemic being over. I think everyone's looking forward to construction dying down. I mean, there's fewer and fewer empty lots on Frankfurt. So I'm really excited about when things get back to normal and there's not, street closures anymore. And it becomes a really vibrant, kind of walking community, every single day, seeing more. I'd like to see more office buildings and whatnot go on to support all the businesses. That's certainly, something that's needed. I'm hoping that the city considers, upzoning. Honestly, I think that both Frankfurt and Girard are zoned too low at CMX 2 and 2.5. I think that there should be higher zoning and higher density there, but that's
we're working on it.
Out of my hands.
We're working on it. We agree.
But, yeah, I love it. Yeah, I absolutely love the feel. From a development standpoint, it pains me to see, that we could have had a lot more density if the city would have zoned us up higher, 5 or 10 years ago to be better able to support the businesses. But I think it's doing really well, and I'm excited to see it expand.
And so, Chad, if you could go one place in Fishtown and spend an evening, where would you go? What would be the businesses you would shop at?
Oh, geez. That's hard.
You can name a couple.
I mean, we would just go eat all day long. The restaurants are amazing. So we would just hop from restaurant to restaurant. I mean, we've created some guides on our social accounts for the restaurants that are closest to us that we really love. I think probably top of my list that I haven't been is, I just learned about Elwood today, so they're definitely on my list now, is the new Japanese sushi place that's right down the street from us. I forget what it's called now. You guys remember what it's called? Right next to
Yeah.
Yes, right next to Mulherron's, attached to Mulherron's.
Yes.
That's top of my list right now for places I haven't been.
So, Chad, in the final seconds, people want to come stay at the Lokal. How do we find you?
Well, you can just Google Lokal with a K, Lokal Hotel. Our website and all of our social channels are Stay Local, #StayLocal, @stay_local. The most important thing is just to remember the K. You'll find us.
I always remember the K because I work with her. See?
Yep.
Snap.
Nice.
Chad, thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks for being part of the district, and thanks for all that you and Courtney do.
Thanks so much, guys. It was a lot of fun.
And we will see you next week. This is for another award-winning Find It in Fishtown Live. Have a great day, Kay. Have a great day, everybody.